everybody. Welcome to Bone2Pick. We are coming to you today from Symphony Hall here in Boston, Massachusetts, home of the great Boston Symphony Orchestra. And our artists of the month are the Boston Symphony Orchestra Trombone section, Principal Trombone, Mr. Toby Oft, Steve Lange, the second trombonist, and Jim Markey, bass trombone. And just thrilled to be in Boston this weekend. I'm a guest soloist for the Brass Bash event tomorrow at New England Conservatory.
Yeah, and thank you very much for coming.
Oh,
really looking forward to it.
Totally my pleasure. And one of the highlights for me is getting an opportunity to play with you guys and play on my pieces. So that's going to be
looking forward to that
really a treat for me. And I really wanted to take this opportunity to sit down with these great young players and talk about their journey and what has led them to their positions in the Boston Symphony Orchestra. I think by all accounts, you guys are the hot orchestral trombone section anywhere in the world right now. People I talk to, there's a lot of energy and synergy about what's going on in Boston with your guys' section. And it seems like the timing of everything worked out really well. They followed a very established and great trombone section before them. Ron Barron, principal trombone for many, many years. Norman Bolter, of course, Douglas Show on bass trombone. Great section. And now the window of opportunity there for you guys to form your own identity and create this great section that you're well underway doing. Toby, you joined in 2008, I think. It's 2010, and then Jim just this year in 2012, this season, I should say. Obviously, it's a great opportunity to land in one of the Big Five, as they're known, Big Five orchestras in the United States. Clearly a great history here in Boston. The orchestra started in 1881 with incredible lineage of conductors, Kusevitsky, Ozawa, most recently James Levine. So anyway, guys, let's jump right in. I know that most of our viewers know all about you and know your incredible list of accomplishments already, but maybe we could start off by just having each of you give a brief overview and tell us a little bit about your journey and how it led you to the Boston Symphony. Toby, maybe we can start with you.
Well, it's a long, arduous story. I hate to say it isn't that glamorous, but I spent probably, the entire time before I got here, I actually, between high school and arriving in Boston, I never lived anywhere longer than 2 years. Maybe 3, maybe 2.5 years, somewhere around there. It was a very transient lifestyle, but went to Oregon State for a couple of years, and I went to Indiana for 3 years, and I went to Northwestern, and then after finishing my master's at Northwestern, I freelanced for a while in Florida, then Buffalo, then back to Florida, then to San Diego, and then here. It was a very surreal experience, actually, when I passed the 3-year mark, realizing that I was really going to stay here, and it was, nobody was going to pinch me and wake me up from the dream. So I don't know, I just would say it's been a long road, and I think the hardest thing to get past actually was setting up a life in a new location, like Florida, for example. I had a great life there where I had a lot of extracurricular activities, like, I was in a cycling club, and I was friends with a number of people in the orchestra. Same thing in San Diego, I had a different life set up there, and every time I had to leave, it's like all these relationships may as well have died. It was really sad. And much of acclimating to a new place was allowing this other life to sort of like evaporate. A terrible way to put it, but it was a very effervescent way to look at the past, where I keep in touch with these people, but it's not like it used to be where I would see them every day and get used to thinking about seeing them tomorrow.
Well, it's got to be a good feeling now, being in a great city like Boston, and you're going to clearly be here for a long time. So that's
beautiful.
Yeah,
it's very beautiful. And I think that when I arrived, I remember Mike Roylance, our great tuba player. He was in his 6th season, and he says, "Yeah, it's just now starting to feel like it's real."
Yeah,
and he's right. This is my 6th season, and it's just now starting to feel like I belong here. It's really beautiful.
That's great. Steve, how about yourself?
How about me? Where did all things begin? Well, I come from a non-musical family, and so when the time came in 6th grade to pick, actually it was 5th grade, to pick an instrument, I was a bit rebellious at the time, and I went into the interview, and there's all these instruments, and so I tried them all, but felt like I wanted to play the biggest one. Come home and show my parents, ha 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 ha! Look what I got! I got the biggest instrument they have. It's a trombone, so I brought that home. But the main reason was to, in retrospect, very ironic because you could either be in band or you could be in choir, and the rumor was that if you went into choir, one of the requirements of sixth grade choir was to be able to sing a solo in front of everyone, and there was no way I was going to do that. so I picked band, got the trombone, and it was just fun all the way through. I was more of a sports guy, so I played a lot of baseball, and I loved the team aspect of playing baseball and basketball. I played tennis. I did everything. And there was a particular moment, and I remember this, when it was either going to be from 6th grade to 7th grade if I was going to play football or be in band. I couldn't do both. And I remember scratching out the little box on my the yellow registration card to the point where I had poked a hole through. I'd gone back and forth between football and band. And I obviously I thought, well, I've got other sports I can play too. Let's just go with the band. I mean, there were so many times throughout school, going even through Indiana University, where Toby and I met first, where I thought, this is the end of the line for me. This is the end. Okay, that's fine. I'll go. I'll still be a happy person. But something just kept drawing me back, and it was fun. So I ended up going to Indiana after high school, and then Juilliard happened. And after that, spent a year in San Antonio Symphony for a year, and then spent a better part of my life in St. Louis, 10 years there, until 2010, where the spot opened and gave it a shot, and here I am. So very happy to be here.
That's cool. Well, I'm sure your time in St. Louis served your baseball
yeah, it did.
needs quite well.
Instant Cardinals fan. Instant. It didn't take long. It did not take long.
Have you switched over now that you're in Boston? Or
you know what? Because my 6-year-old son is a baseball fan, I am sure that it won't take long for me to become a Red Sox fan. Just through his fanship.
You're right.
I'm sure it'll happen.
That's good stuff. Jim, how about yourself? I know you've had quite a distinctive past, so maybe share some of that with us.
Well, as for me, I mean, my getting started on the trombone was just through our middle school band, and my older brother played trumpet. I grew up in a family where we didn't have a whole lot of resources just for, shall we say, recreational activities. But for us, music was really important. It was a recreational thing. It was something you did for fun, either singing or being part of just enjoying music. And so band was just another way. It was another extension of doing that with the trombone. I never really even considered it as a viable career until I hit about 15, 16 and started doing well in all states and thought, oh gee, maybe this would be kind of fun to do. And then met Joe Alessi in my junior year in high school. And he said, you really, if you're not getting lessons, I'm available and I'd love to work with you. And I said, that would be awesome. And so I go to Juilliard, and 1 year in high school, 2 years at Juilliard, and then I wound up in Pittsburgh. And after 2 years in Pittsburgh, I wound up in New York as assistant. I was there for 9.5 years, and then bass as effective June 2007. And then here this year. And if you'd asked me a year and a half ago, I would have told you I'm going to be a New Yorker for life. I grew up in New Jersey, and so I was very familiar with the whole tri-state area, and except for the 2 years that I spent in Pittsburgh, my whole life was centered in the New York area. And even a year and a half ago, like I said, I would have said I'll be a New Yorker for life. But when this position came open, it was the perfect timing. It was just the right job at just the right time. That if it come open probably 2 years sooner, or maybe even 2 years later, or the circumstances weren't what they were, I'd probably still be in New York. But being as it is, I mean, it's just amazing that I'm here, and I'm really, really glad and excited to be here. I miss everybody in New York. I really love being here. This is awesome.
That's great stuff. I mean, I find it amazing that in just following the orchestral world, that's not kind of where I live, but following it, the opportunity for a section to develop, like you guys have guys, all three of you in your 30s, and an opportunity to forge ahead for many, many years together. It's really special when that lines up like it did. you know, being in this hall, it's like I played here only once, many years ago. I played here with a pop singer that I was working with at the time. And I was so excited to play in Symphony Hall in Boston because I'd heard about it for so many years. And so I got to the sound check early and played a little my, you know, version of Mahler 3 on my 2B. I put, you know, so it's gonna give you the heebie-jeebies just thinking about it. But anyway, I had a good time, like just trying to you know, my orchestral fantasy. But anyway, all the kidding aside, it struck me as like the best hall I've ever played in, and I've been fortunate to play in a lot of them, like we all have. But it just, I was amazed at how good the acoustics were and how good it just felt to play in this hall. So obviously you guys live here, this is your house, and I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what it's like to play in Symphony Hall, and then also maybe if you just have a couple other halls that are favorites of yours that you've been able to play in throughout your career. Maybe, Jim, you want to start with you, coming from, you know, you have a vast touring experience, which you all do, but you in particular have played around the world many times over.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you have it right. The Philharmonic does do a lot of touring. And probably most of the big places that there are to play, now at least a fair number of them I played already. The Symphony Hall certainly ranks, when you get to the level, the kind of level of hall that Symphony Hall is, it's sort of like getting to the either the best baseball player or the best trombonist. I mean, who is the best? Well, you might have individual preference for one or the other, but I would probably put Symphony Hall and the Concertgebouw and the Musikverein in Vienna and the Concertgebouw in Amsterdam. I'd put those three at the top of my list for my three favorite halls to play in. And this really is my favorite hall in this country. And I love Carnegie Hall dearly. There's a very particular kind of sound that you get from this hall that I think it's really, really special, and it's a really amazing and fabulous place to play. Just first, to start off with, just the reverberation that you get, the feedback that you get, and the amount that you actually hear when you're on stage, across the stage and around. And here, I think with many of the great halls, you really feel like you're part of something, not just a section, but you're part of this big, larger organic mass. And that really is the way I feel about this place. This hall turns the orchestra into, shall I say, large-scale chamber music. And when we're at our best, that's really the way it feels. One big chamber music ensemble that just happens to have 85 people, 90 people on stage at a given time. It's really awesome. It's a great place to play.
It's a great way to put it. Steve, how about yourself?
Well, yeah, I haven't had the experience of going all over the world and seeing the halls that I hope to someday, and I think we will eventually. We don't have a music director at the moment, and so touring has been halted for the last couple of years. But I think we'll get back there and we'll go see some of those halls, and I can't wait to try them. But I can speak to the BSO's hall. It is a great hall. It's a great hall, and the thing is that I've taken the audition here, and I remember pulling out my horn and getting ready to play my first note for the audition, and wow, this feels really comfortable. It's a forgiving hall, and one of the great things about the hall, I think it's well balanced, and so it's not too bright, it's not too muddy, and then the sonics and the mid level, you know, if you have you've got treble, bass, and mid. You know, the mid is there too. It's not absent, and so it's just well balanced across the spectrum. And so that's one of the great things about it. And the other thing is that you feel like you can have lots of different shades of articulations. You can kind of sneak in, and you hear audience members say, "Where did you guys start?" Yeah, all I heard was just you were there, but there wasn't a perceptible attack, and so that. The hall lets us do those kinds of things where other halls, you know, you may not be able to have those kinds of shades. Soft playing is one of the great things about the hall. We can do that, and here at the hall allows us to do that. I remember one of my first years here. You weren't here yet, Jim, but James Lange was conducting the prelude, Tristan and Isolde. The prelude and Liebestod. And when we get to Liebestow, there's this really great bass clarinet line, and then all of a sudden the whole orchestra stops and it's just trombones playing a very, very pianissimo chord, and you feel really naked. And it's like, oh, we really can play soft. We really need to, actually. And I'll never forget when James Levine turned to us and he said, "That was great, and the dynamic is great, and if that's how if you feel comfortable playing at that dynamic, that's just fine. But it would be spectacular if you could play it softer." And so I'll never forget that. You remember that? Oh, it was electrifying. I mean, we had our horns underneath our chairs facing backwards, but it really turned out great. So anyway, so that's the hall. That's it for you. I don't know, what do you think?
That was a good memory. I remember when we finished that chord, we looked at each other, you, me, and Doug, of course, and we're all like, "That's the softest we've ever played. That was so amazing." And then Jimmy was like, "Yeah, even softer." We're like, "What?" Well, I don't know many people on the planet that can play softer than that. And the only thing we could come up with was, we'll just play it and face our bells backwards. Just put our bells between our legs. Yeah, there we go. I think that's a beautiful thing about the hall. When you take a risk like that, I think in other halls, when you go to play that soft, you might come away from the experience thinking, you know what, I'm not sure that there was a point to playing that soft because I don't think anybody heard me. I can remember playing in some not so good halls, sort of like refurbished movie theater type places, or places that weren't designed to accommodate such a wide dynamic range and do so effectively, and you just come away wondering, well, was there a point to playing that soft? I'm not even sure that the concertmaster could have heard that. Maybe I should play a little bit louder because the function of that orchestration right there is lost because I'm basically not pulling my weight. But here you're encouraged to try that on. It requires you to build that ability to play soft with a sort of like beautiful resonance that isn't tentative. It's not so easy, but I would think that the beautiful thing about that is that you can play that soft. You're encouraged to play that soft. In fact, many of our colleagues take the risk, and it's a beautiful thing when they do. The wonderful thing about doing that is that, per the comments of my colleagues, the feedback that we get from the hall, it's not a guessing game. I think when you're playing, you play a beautiful chord, either a tutti chord that's soft or loud, and there's a moment of rest, and then there's about maybe 40 milliseconds that you can hear the exact balance in the hall resonating of what you played, and you come away from that thinking, "Oh no, I'm flat," or you're like, "Wow, that was the balance of that was just right," and so that's if you can imagine some of these louder chords in Bruckner or even Berlioz, you get done with them and you're like, "Oh, that was good." "Oh, that was not so good." And you can make these little micro adjustments that in other spaces, even I would say Carnegie, it's unfortunately somewhat of a guessing game. I think the wonderful thing about Carnegie is that you can hear across stage really well by comparison to many halls in the U.S. that I've played in Europe. But in most halls, it's much more of a guessing game, and this warm resonance is something that you can hear everybody playing with. And if you aren't matching style or rhythmic style, I should say, that would be like note shape. For example, Hungarian March or Die Valkyrie come to mind. How much bom ba ba or ba 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 to put on there? If you're not matching the people around you, it's not because you can't hear it, it's just because you're choosing not to. So it really encourages great ensemble technique, as Jim indicated in his answer. I think you can hear as if you were in a chamber ensemble, and it's just a fantastic experience, whether you're playing pops, chamber music, or in the orchestra.
It's an extension of all of our instruments.
Mm-hmm.
Great
And
way
we
to
use
put
it.
it.
Yeah.
Great way to
Yeah,
put it.
well said by all of you. It's really good insight into the specialness of the hall.